Friday. We made it through another week, and next week's going to be pretty intense, and hopefully you'll join me at America's Talking Network on YouTube as Monday morning. I may do a super duper early broadcast. I may actually just record it to prepare because I'm going to have to hit the road early Monday morning to get up to Milwaukee for next week's Republican National Convention. And we're going to be doing our live shows each and every morning from that remote location in Milwaukee, reviewing everything that's happened at the Republican National Convention from the day before. So looking forward to that, but a reminder, Monday, those of you waking up right now and joining the chat room here with Bishop on Air, you're not going to be with Bishop on Air Monday morning. You're going to have to go to America's Talking Network. Subscribe over there, hit that notification bell, join us each and every weekday morning. Around 8 o'clock when we go live over there. So Bishop on Air will still be here. So please remain subscribed because we do plan on doing all kinds of things, documentaries, what's going on across the state, maybe this day in gun control. So we'll look at all of that, maybe interviews with certain guests and such. So greatly appreciate you guys. So in the chat room, if you're here this morning, and this includes on X and on Facebook, you're only going to be able to watch at America's Talking Network on YouTube. All right, and this really gives us such an opportunity to put resources behind the show, to really drive it, to get more engagement, to get more promotion. So that's a main reason why we took Bishop on Air and are now making it America's Talking Network's Illinois in Focus Daily, which starts soon. So get over there, America's Talking Network. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. It's with the Center Square. I'm Greg Bishop, an editor at the Center Square. It all just makes sense, so make it happen, all right? Lot to get to, including the continued drip of whether or not President Joe Biden should stay in office. So stay tuned. We'll get to that next year. Bishop on Air going to Illinois in Focus Daily.
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
That's President Joe Biden yesterday in a news conference where right out of the gate, the first question about his confidence in Vice President Kamala Harris. he makes a gaffe and says that he wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump if he wasn't confident that she would be a good president. The drips continue, including 2 more congressmen from the state of Illinois, Democrats, coming out and saying that it's time for Biden to step aside. Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks for being with me. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell with America's Talking Network on YouTube, where we broadcast each and every weekday morning for you to understand what's going on in the land of Lincoln. So next week, we will be at the convention, the Republican National Convention, on the ground, talking with people one-on-one, and bringing you the latest on what's going on. So we'll be on the ground at the Republican National Convention. It's expected they will officially nominate former Vice President Donald Trump for another nomination. And then a few weeks after that, the Democratic National Convention up in Chicago will be taking place. And all indication is the Center Square will be on the ground there reporting as well. So be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell to America's Talking Network, and stay plugged in. So yesterday, of course, President Joe Biden, it was quote unquote a big boy news conference. Even the White House using those terms. This comes after late last month, the president had a debate with Trump, which all indication is, and even the president admits, it was a bad night. And then he did some, rallies where he claims he brought thousands of people together. He then had a sit-down interview with ABC's George Stephanopoulos. He had NATO all this week, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, their 75th anniversary. And even with that, there were some gaffes, some pretty noticeable gaffes, not just some of the prepared speeches he was giving with a teleprompter, where it was difficult sometimes there's some kind of slurring of words and mumbling of words, difficult to transcribe in a lot of cases. But even instances like this, where President Biden was getting ready to introduce President of Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky, and instead introduced him as somebody else.
Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
Thank you so much, Mr. President.
All of these questions have Democrat leaders on edge and being asked a lot of questions as to Biden's mental and physical fitness to do the job for another 4 years. Governor J.B. Pritzker, one of those Democratic officials, having to field these questions, and he's been fielding these questions all week long. Don't forget, he was on a hot mic earlier this week where he said that he didn't like where the election was. And he made that clear yesterday at an event down in the Metro East St. Louis area when he was asked, well, what exactly did you mean in that hot mic comment?
Well, all I was referring to is I don't like the polls, right? Joe Biden is behind by a couple of points nationally. I think we should be doing a lot better. I've certainly said that President Biden should get out there more, talk to the American public, make sure that he's communicating about the issues that are important to them and that the Democratic Party stands up for. And so I don't like the fact that we're behind, and I think we can do much better, and I'm going to go campaign for him and watch him win in November.
So the governor being asked these questions all week long. He'll go to a ribbon cutting where he was yesterday at a couple of different events. He was only asked questions at one of the events. And earlier this week, signing legislation. He then had to field questions about Biden's fitness. Is there somebody better to fill the role for the Democrats moving forward? Again, here is the governor.
Oh, I think that we would have an excellent chance with any Democrat, except that Joe Biden is the one who's proved over 50 years that he is a patriot. He's somebody who believes in the working families of America, and he's delivered for them.
So the president holding that news conference last night, pretty wide-ranging questions, and there was a select number of people who were allowed to ask questions. The president had a list in front of him, and he pulled that list out, started asking those individuals to stand up and ask their questions. And again, the first question was, do you have faith in Kamala Harris to be president? Here's President Biden.
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
So the president, obviously a misstatement there in saying Vice President Trump to be vice president if I didn't think she would be presidential material. The press conference went through a whole host of things: foreign policy issues, domestic issues. The president at one point even started talking about, regulate guns, not girls. He talked about a button, and he started shaking his finger, talking about, more children are killed by a bullet than anything else. And, where's the fact check on that? Of course, studies that even the Biden administration has pointed to indicates that they're including, ages up to 19. Well, 18 to 19-year-olds are not children. They're adults. But regardless, the president making that statement and showing some, strong emotion there. But he was even asked about, obviously he's saying he's staying in the race. And he even talked about the delegates and asked directly if he would have the delegates, stay with him or free him up. But then the press conference finished up, and the last question was asked, and somebody else stood up and was able to get the president's attention and asked this question based off of the first response where he misnamed Vice President Kamala Harris, replacing it with Vice President Trump.
Respectfully, earlier you misspoke in your opening answer. You referred to Vice President Harris as Vice President Trump. Right now, Donald Trump is using that to mock your age and your memory. How do you combat that criticism from tonight?
Listen to him.
This concludes tonight's press conference.
So listen to him. I guess he's wanting the press to point out every time Trump fumbles. And Trump does make weird statements and misnames people, and I guess that's just a thing. But, that in comparison to other questions about Biden's mental fitness, including questions he was asked about should he take a cognitive test. He says he was taking cognitive or neurological exams, and, he'll take more neurological exams in the future, but, he doesn't see any doctors that say you need to take one. Or he says that nobody else has told him he needs to take one. I think all the questions being asked about whether or not you should take a neurological exam, it's probably people suggesting it's probably time to take a neurological exam. But again, the question about delegates was interesting. Biden did indicate that he would free up the delegates at the convention. And again, the convention's in August up in Chicago. Governor J.B. Pritzker yesterday, pretty confident that the delegates are going to stick with Biden.
Well, they are. I mean, these are delegates who are elected to support Joe Biden. That is what they do at the convention, unless he steps aside, which he said he's not going to do. And so all of our delegates will show up at the convention. They'll vote for Joe Biden, and I believe Joe Biden will be our candidate and will be a great candidate beating Donald Trump. But we got a lot of work to do. We're all going to have to pull together to make it happen.
So the governor then being asked why this has persisted so much, this line of this storyline.
When you stumble in a highly watched debate, people want to know if you can continue, right? They want to know if you can overcome the bad press that you got during that debate. And I think they were slow out of the gates after the debate to make it clear to people that he's going to be the candidate and that he's capable of taking on and beating Donald Trump. And he's doing that now. He's convincing everybody. And I think that's great.
So the governor continued with saying people are going to support President Biden. Who knows what the next couple of weeks are going to be because the pressure's still on. You have two congressmen from the state of Illinois who just recently put out statements that they are not in support of Biden being the nominee anymore. Congressman Brad Schneider said, "I love President Biden. I'm forever grateful for his leadership and service to our nation. The time has come, however, for President Biden to heroically pass the torch to a new generation of leadership to guide us to the future that he's enabled and empowered to pursue. In passing the torch now, President Biden has a chance to live up to this standard and seal his place in history as one of the greatest leaders of the nation and history has ever known." So again, these statements, the president seems to just brush off to the side. He was asked yesterday at that news conference. Back in 2020, he said that he was going to be a bridge candidate for a younger generation. And Biden saying, well, the job's not done. And he says that he has the wisdom and the history to be able to make this happen and to bring this vision he has. So that's why he's not passing the torch. But obviously not enough for others. Congressman Eric Sorensen. And again, these are congressmen that are up for election in 2020. And the question of, the top of the ticket, does that have an impact on the lower part of the ticket? President, does it impact who you're going to vote for congressman? Congress in the House, they're up every 2 years. Even in the State House, they're up every 2 years. So Congressman Eric Sorensen says, I'm hopeful President Biden will step aside in campaign for president. So you've got these elections coming up, some feeling pressure, some maybe hearing from their own Democratic constituencies saying, hey, what's going on? This is troubling. And even Republicans, when we talked with former State Senator Darren Bailey, a Trump delegate, he said that it's really kind of sad what's happening to Biden right now. Here's former State Senator Darren Bailey.
This whole Biden debacle, I mean, I am literally embarrassed for him. Watching that debate last week, I have no idea how anyone can put their faith and confidence in what's going on. Now, J.B. Pritzker's a liar, and you can't believe anything that comes out of that man's mouth. But I've said it in the debates 2 years ago, and I'm going to say it again in November when that day to cast our votes comes. It would not surprise me at all if J.B. Pritzker's name was not in that slot. So there is no way, Joe Biden can continue on the journey that he's on. It's just the debates showed and proved too much. I think a lot of people were shocked, but the agonizing thing is the amount of people who subscribe to that side of the aisle to sit there and stay behind that and say that that's okay, that's normal, I'm still going to support that party. That's the doom and demise that I think is going to drag our nation down.
A lot more to come on all of this. Of course, we've got the Republican National Convention next week. I'll be on the ground, so be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell with Illinois in Focus Daily at America's Talking Network. If you can't get the video, we do have the podcast, so find America's Talking Network and Illinois in Focus Daily, and get the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. All right, so a lot to happen in the weeks ahead, no question. I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks for being part of the program. Illinois in Focus Daily, each and every weekday morning here at America's Talking Network. It's been another busy week at thecentersquare.com, where you can get the latest headlines, keeping you plugged in on what you need to know. I'm Greg Bishop, Associate Editor with The Center Square. This is Illinois in Focus Daily. Happy Friday. Again, next week, we'll be at the Republican National Convention to bring you some of the headlines, not just of what's going on with Illinois delegates, but you can also go to thecentersquare.com and plug into other states across the country. But let's take a look at some of the headlines from this last week with thecentersquare.com. So go to the page and you'll see, of course, some of the latest headlines at the very top. Democrats blaming Republicans for Chicago crime, and that's crazy. If you missed the interview with John Cabello from earlier this week, yesterday, you can find those at America's Talking Network, Illinois in Focus Daily, and have that conversation with State Representative John Cabello in response to Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson and even Governor J.B. Pritzker saying that the violence in Chicago is a result of Republican disinvestment in cities. And Cabello and others pointing out that Republicans haven't been in control of Chicago or Cook County for decades. And the funding issues that Pritzker points to under the Rauner administration, the former administration of Republican Governor Bruce Rauner here in Illinois, there was a 2.5-year budget impasse. Blame who you want, but really it came down to the Illinois House never passed a budget. that could be signed that was balanced. But regardless, you can go down that rabbit hole if you want. But the governor, Pritzker, pointing to Rauner, saying, hey, he defunded these programs for violence intervention and so on. But saying that Republicans are the cause of this is quote unquote crazy and insane, according to John Cabello. But they also, if you read that story, you'll get the back and forth about violence intervention programs and whether or not you've got youth summer jobs, and are those dollars actually being spent appropriately? Also, be sure to check out Illinois Quick Hits. Those come out twice a day, and they're just quick little blips of things you need to know about, including the Stellantis Belvedere plant getting hundreds of millions of dollars in grants to help get that site going. And this is, of course, as a result of labor negotiations with Stellantis and the other large vehicle operators, and they're going to be opening up a plant in Belvedere here soon. Some other numbers you need to know, of course, Illinois tax dollars spending $53+ billion in this fiscal year that started July 1st. A lot of tax revenue coming from gambling and also cannabis, but gambling revenues from casinos compared to last year are up. However, they are down from the year before. And what's also interesting there is the Bally's Casino in Chicago is not performing nearly at the pace that it usually would. So you can read that story as well at thecentersquare.com. Continuing on, we're just kind of going back in time throughout this past week. Talked about Governor Pritzker quite a bit this week. He's just been peppered with questions about President Joe Biden's fitness. But you've also got questions about the child tax credit that's part of the budget here in the state of Illinois. And if you read that story, you'll find out that, hey, if you're under a certain income threshold, if you have children, you're going to get a child tax credit, $300 of a child tax credit, up to some, if you only have one child, maybe like $175 or something. And while Democrats are saying this is going to be beneficial for working families, you've got a report from Kiplinger saying that Illinois is among the worst states in the country when it comes to working families. So let's go and check out that story here, because it's important to delve into these headlines a bit further, especially when it comes to looking at these reports. So go check out the story. Pritzker touts child tax credit as Illinois among the worst for working class families. And you go and check out the Kiplinger report, where it lays out some of the things about Illinois in particular, and just how well it's doing for working class families. So let's go check out this article here from Kiplinger, where it goes through the 10 least tax-friendly states for middle-class families, and search Illinois. So Illinois, median household income, $76,708. 12% of income spent on taxes. Wow, 12% of income spent on taxes. While Illinois is a state that doesn't tax retirement income, you're out of luck if you're still working. Average income taxes for the middle class reach nearly $5,000, and property tax bills in the prairie states are on the high end too. We're among the highest property taxes in the country. To make matters worse, Illinois is one of only 13 states that taxes groceries. Now, the grocery tax is going to come to an end at some point, but not for this fiscal year. That's actually going to come to an end, I believe, in 2026. I'll have to double check those numbers, but go and check that story out. Again, at thecentersquare.com. People asking questions. While the tax credit may be beneficial, we still pay among the highest taxes in the state, in the country. Jobs, tax rebates fuel Northwest Illinois real estate markets, the Rockford area. Those of you living in Rockford, I'd love to hear from you. You can email me, bishoponair at gmail.com. Find me anywhere. Just search Twitter, X, Facebook, and so on. You can message me that way. But if you're in the Rockford area, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that story, because some real estate experts saying that with the Belvedere plant, for instance, and hospitals in that area, there's been a boom in the northwest part of the state. Continuing on with other things you can find at thecentersquare.com. We talked about the health insurance law that Governor Pritzker signed earlier this week. The November ballot issue. This could pop today, by the way. The Illinois Supreme Court could make a decision about whether or not candidates that didn't run in the primary can get on the November ballot. If you recall, Governor Pritzker enacted a hastily passed law that says if somebody didn't run in the March primary, they can't be on the November ballot for a major party through slating. Well, slating's been happening in the state of Illinois for decades. Whether or not you like it, changing the rules midstream, that was the question that was posed to a lower court in Sangamon County, and they blocked that law. And now it's up in front of the Illinois Supreme Court. So we could find out very soon if the Illinois Supreme Court is going to either reverse that lower court decision and agree to hear the case, or keep that lower court decision in place and then hear the case later. So we'll see what happens there. More tax revenues, $1 billion in sales for cannabis in the state of Illinois, and a lot of that money going to nonprofits across the state. 25% of every dollar of cannabis taxes the state brings in goes to communities in that have been impacted by the war on drugs, so to speak. So interesting to see the breakdown of how those dollars are used. Also, just all of the different headlines you can get at thecentersquare.com. Want you to go check those out, all right? Especially if you're a farmer, and the pesticide dilemma that people are having to talk about and handle. So clearly, there's plenty going on for you to read up on, share with your friends, keep plugged in, and wake up with us each and every weekday morning with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell with America's Talking Network, because we are going to be broadcasting from the Republican National Convention each and every morning, reviewing the things that happened the day before. So very much looking forward to being there to bring you the latest. And of course, we'll do what we can to keep you updated with Illinois in Focus Daily each and every weekday morning. I'm Greg Bishop. Follow me anywhere. Just search Bishop on Air, and we can connect that way. And be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and subscribe to thecentersquare.com for the regular newsletter. Subscribe to Illinois in Focus anywhere you get your podcasts, and we'll see you back here Monday morning. That's all I got for you this week. I want to remind everybody, if you're still in the Bishop on Air chat, we're going to be over at America's Talking Network starting Monday. You're not going to find this live program here with Bishop on Air. You're going to have to get it over at America's Talking Network. So don't delay. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. 8 o'clock every morning. I think that seems to work well. But I do just want to take a moment to see what's going on in the chat room here on this Friday. So if you've got a question in the next 5 minutes or so, I'll take your questions. Do you think Illinois may swing Republican this year for the presidential, with Kentucky running and stealing votes from Biden? Chicago's always been dominating in the statewide vote, and president is statewide vote, right? It's not district by district by district. I think there's a place for debating the Electoral College and whether or not states should be splitting up their Electoral College votes, because Illinois and a lot of other states are winner takes all. So it doesn't matter if Trump got 45% of the vote in Illinois. If Biden got 55% of the vote, all 19 delegates from the state of Illinois will go to Joe Biden. So if it was where you could split those electoral votes, Illinois could have, half the votes plus one go to Biden, and then half the votes minus one go to Trump. States don't do that, though. And I think that if they were to, have more of a equitable process like that, it'd make the map for election night for president that much more interesting. Let's see here. Any other question? And I'm just gonna, free form here. Looking at the chat here. Greg, can you do a segment on CTU contract demands? Yeah, I'll definitely do that soon as we get more information on the Chicago Teachers Union's contract demands. I've seen some early indication. There's a lot of things that rub people the wrong way. So maybe we'll connect with the likes of WirePoints, for instance, or Illinois Policy to get their take and see what the Teachers Union in Chicago has to say. Of the chat, let's vote now, live. Randall says Trump. All right. I guess that's, you could do that if you wanted to. What are the odds the Illinois Supremes rule in favor of JB? Well, we've got some would consider a liberal Illinois Supreme Court, let alone all of the questions about two of the justices on the Supreme Court having gotten $1 million in campaign funds from Governor J.B. Pritzker and his trust fund. So, whether or not that is something that's going to be impacting the state's court system, it's already been litigated to a degree with the Supreme Court saying, no, we're not going to recuse ourselves. And even the U.S. Supreme Court on Dan Calkins' case refusing to take that up. Let's see here. Any other questions in the live chat this morning? What's the latest word on Stephen McGlynn on the ban? I'm glad you asked. I did check this morning. They've got a status conference. So a couple of days ago, it was announced, McGlynn said status conference for July 16th. So that's going to be next week, July 16th, a status conference. That status conference really, I imagine it's going to be, hey, you got the U.S. Supreme Court that's done some stuff. You're probably going to see some more briefs filed on that. We're still gearing for September 16th to be the bench trial. So that's the latest, right? Just a status conference has been announced for the 16th where the litigants are going to get together and discuss the status of where they're at. Where are you at with all your rebuttals to these experts and vice versa. All of it gearing up for that September 16th bench trial date in the Southern District case. So what's the point of that? The point of that is it's, again, just to have the litigants say, this is where we're at. We don't foresee any scheduling conflicts, or we do foresee some scheduling conflicts, or whatever the case may be. So it won't be like definitive with action on anything per se, but it'll just be a status conference. Where's the Tom DeVore case? Well, which case? He had hundreds of clients with the gun ban challenge. Is that the case you're talking about? Today's the vote for Illinois GOP chair. Should be interesting who wins. It's something else too. Yeah, that's fascinating if you're really interested in the internal politics of these established parties. But the three names up for grabs there: Aaron Delmar, John Cabello, who we talked with yesterday, who told us on record that he only wants to be in it on an interim basis to get through the November election, or Kathy Salvi, who's a former candidate for the U.S. Senate. And we'll see who gets that, because they're having a closed-door meeting today for the Republicans just ahead of the Republican National Convention. So interesting. Wait, the two streams differ? Yes, I am just hanging out here. This is the final Bishop on Air live morning after finishing up the America's Talking Network live stream, which, by the way, America's Talking Network will be the exclusive place to get the morning show. All right, Illinois in Focus Daily. And that's what we're doing. Why did we do this? Listen, I mean, I've been doing talk news journalism since 2006. And it's progressed and it's evolved so much. And maybe I just take this moment to give you guys a little bit of that history. But gosh, 2006. I had long hair. I was in a rock band. And I was a political junkie. I was totally plugged into seeing what in the world is going on with our country and our state. And then I stumbled upon talk radio here locally and was just fascinated with the local voices and the ability to communicate with a lot of people. And I was going to school for architecture at that time. I had no idea what I was up to. I was a server at a restaurant here in Springfield and had literally 10 tables in a row one day say, if you're not on the radio, you need to be on the radio. So I kind of took that as a sign. And then I had a roommate tell me, hey, a local radio group, the Rock Station, is having a contest. It's called Project Zero Talent. And I applied for that. There were several hundred people that applied for it. It was like an internship type of program, American Idol type of competition. And I knew that this station was associated with the local talk station. So with the idea of getting onto that local talk station, I went ahead and signed up for this internship program. Made it through the finals. I was one of 5 people finally picked. Ultimately, I helped run the board for a local morning talk show on the Rock Station called The Freak Show. It was a lot of fun, but really I was aiming to get on that news talk station. And the managers ended up seeing I had some talent and gave me a Saturday show. And that was Saturday Session with Bishop. It was a 2-hour and then a 3-hour and I think at one point a 4-hour Saturday afternoon talk show. It was great. I had a lot of fun doing that. Did that for, 6 years or so. And at that time, I got my degree in communication, was working towards a master's, got into the newsroom, started learning how to write news, how to cover news. Then I got a weekday talk show on WMAY. And then I was recruited to start a non-profit radio news operation focused on Illinois state government. In being recruited by a think tank to do this, they were very adamant, nonpartisan, straight down the line, get all voices involved, but we want a taxpayer's perspective. And that's kind of my viewpoint as well, is we're all taxpayers in this. Left, right, private sector, public sector, we're all taxpayers in this. So I started that back up in 2014, which is amazing. So 10 years ago, I did kind of both jobs. I part-time was with the radio station, full-time was with a new burgeoning radio network, and then we acquired Illinois Radio Network, and then we acquired Watchdog, and it just kept growing. Now it's the Center Square, and then we acquired some more. It just more and more, it started evolving and developing, and just grew. Very, very, just incredible to sit back and watch it. So I was still doing the morning show at that time. And a lot of you guys came in when I was still on WMAY. So I can't appreciate you guys enough for still sticking with it here. But it got to a point where, with all the other responsibilities, I couldn't go in and do a 3-hour morning show every morning. It was draining me because I was working 15 plus hours a day between doing the morning show and then full time covering what's going on at the State House. So I told the radio station, listen, I'm just I can't do the morning show anymore. It's exhausting. In addition to my full-time responsibilities, and it just made sense. So that's when I started doing this from home, doing a 20, 30-minute show, hanging out with you guys each and every morning. And then I figured, you know what? We'll get this strong enough. We'll get a good formula down, and why not? Let's just go and make this part of the Center Square, my full-time gig. So that's kind of the progression of where we're at now. So appreciate you guys being a part of it. And going along this journey with me. Hopefully I'm keeping you guys informed and what's going on. All right, that was a little bit longer of a spiel than I wanted. But that was to Brian's question. Wait, the 2 different streams? Those 2 streams differ. Again, thank you so much for being part of this. This is Bishop on Air. We're going to continue with stuff on Bishop on Air. I'll pop on here and we'll talk about the gun ban. We'll track that exclusively. And take a look at what's going on with the latest steps, maybe some interviews with individuals from across the state, maybe some mini documentaries. So reach out to me. If you've got things that you want me to do with Bishop on Air, mini documentaries, going to gun ranges or speaking with those who operate gun stores or others across the state, email me, bishoponair@gmail.com. All right, guys, I got to get out of here. Get ready for next week. Again, next week we'll be at the Republican National Convention, but get the live show each and every weekday morning at America's Talking Network. All right, peace out. You guys are awesome. Very humbling that you're here each and every weekday morning. But go join America's Talking Network, because that's where we're going to be next week. Peace.